So this might be one of the most underrated Nintendo games that have come out that literally no one talks about. And that is Toad Treasure Tracker, as you can see by the title of this video. And I will say this was pretty much Nintendo's shot at creating a 3D puzzle game solely about the puzzles itself, not the platforming alongside with it like you see in traditional Mario games or Zelda games. This game was Nintendo's basically like their portal to Valve, where everything about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong, but at least when I think of 3D puzzle games that Nintendo's released, this is the only one I can think of. And this was a pretty influential game, as I'll get into here in a second. But yeah, so this game has Toad at the helm. This game is all about him. It was originally released on the Wii U, but due to the failure of the Wii U in general, the game didn't really sell super well, so they re-released it on the 3DS as well as the Switch. And that's pretty much where this game got a lot of its popularity and its rise from. I know plenty of people who didn't even know that it was on the Wii U, because the Wii U was kind of a disaster for Nintendo and was a failure. But obviously they bounced back with the Switch, with the immense success of the Switch. We saw a couple of games come from the Wii U ported over to the Switch. Things like obviously Breath of the Wild is a big one that a lot of people talk about, but then also this game, the one that people I think sleep on a lot and provide a lot of fun and a lot of kind of really works your mind a little bit. So getting to the gameplay, Toad is basically placed on these small little islands, and these little islands are these 3D puzzles that you have to solve and kind of maneuver to allow Toad to make it to the end and reach the star. The game kind of keeps you grounded, so you can't jump at all. Toad is like glued to the ground, so you have to kind of utilize and figure out how the environment is supposed to be manipulated in a way so you can get him throughout the puzzle. And there's different types of environments that they utilize, which I thought they did a masterful job at. Each one feels very unique and distinct, and also do a little callback to other classic Nintendo games. Like for example, there's a Luigi's Mansion where it's basically a ghost. It's like a little mansion. They're all unique. There's underwater levels. There's some that kind of are reminiscent of Super Mario Sunshine and stuff like that. And I love how they've been able to kind of utilize at their past franchises and their other IPs within Nintendo to kind of create these puzzles. And there's also even a DLC where they utilize Super Mario Odyssey, where this was basically Super Mario Odyssey themed map or puzzle that you can play in this game, because obviously they came around the same time. And there's also a lot of elements from Super Mario Odyssey that was taken from Toad Treasure Tracker in terms of the puzzles and stuff like that. And because of this diversity in certain environments that you have and certain puzzles that you're trying to solve, it allows the game not to feel super repetitive, because not only does the environment looks different, but each puzzle kind of has its own twist. They're not all kind of the same. You kind of have to think of different ways of how you have to solve this. And that probably requires dying a few times, but it could be things like a Rubik's Cube. It can be to move the blocks. It could be cloned toads, where you have to utilize two toads that are cloned and moving the exact same as each other as you control them, and how you kind of maneuver those two. It could be precise timing. For example, there's a level where Toad is in a tube and you have to time your turns just right to go through this tube maze. And I love how they really thought outside the box of how you have to solve these things and create different environments, because I'm not like, when you defeat one, you don't know what you're going to get next, because each level is like this story in a book, essentially, where there's 3 books in it. There's about 20 chapters in each book, with each chapter being its own level. And within that level, you have the star that you have to get at the end, which is you have to do to get to the next, to complete it. But then also intermediary, if I can't say that word, I'm not even going to try again. But there's also diamonds within the middle of the level that you have to collect, and you have to collect a certain amount of diamonds to unlock the next page, because if you just disregarded the diamonds and just went straight to the star at the end, you would not be able to move on, because it would say like, hey, you need a certain amount of diamonds to unlock this next page. So it kind of adds 2 different things. And then specifically on the Switch version, they have something called Pixel Toad, which this is where things can get a little bit more challenging, which it's not required, it's completely optional, but each map has this tiny little Pixel Toad from the Super Nintendo system, where he's some spot somewhere on there, and you just have to, once you find him, you just tap him. And sometimes it can be pretty difficult to find. He could be hidden in little crevices and corners or whatever it might be, but it's like a little mini game that you can play within each level. You don't even have to do it at first, but you could even complete the game normally and then go back and try to find all these little toads throughout maneuvering. And I like how they thought about that stuff, especially because pretty much the game is identical to the Wii U version, except for that specific little area. I think it does a great job of making you think in a 3D realm, because at first you want to solve it in terms of 2D, kind of what you see. But then sometimes you'll realize, or you turn a certain way, or you move a certain direction, you kind of remember, you get that thing in the back of your head like, oh wait, I need to turn this. You need to move this thing. It's got, picture it like almost like a video game Rubik's Cube in that sense. And there you'll discover new things. So sometimes I'll be playing 5 minutes on this one specific level, and then I don't even think about turning it. I turn it, I see this whole underground path underneath it. So I think it does a really good job of kind of keeping you zoned in, and then when you turn, kind of getting surprised at what you see next. Obviously, over time, as you complete the levels, you start to think more in that manner. You start moving around, maybe investigating before you even start moving. But I will say too, in the difficulty, it starts you off very, very simple. Then it kind of slowly progresses and gets a little bit more difficult. Then it kind of stagnates. That's probably my one little gripe about the game, even though overall I greatly enjoy it. It's a nice, fun, relaxing game that you can play on the couch or do whatever. But I do wish there was a little bit more difficulty into the puzzles as you progress. Now, it seems to be random at times, because sometimes you play these puzzles and it's like, boom, super easy, you move on. But then the next one will be like, okay, this is a little tougher. And sometimes it's not always tough because of the puzzle itself, but then trying to avoid certain enemies, because there's going to be certain like kind of like shooting turnips type levels where you have to utilize and dodge enemy projectiles and things like that. So sometimes they can get a little annoying, a little tricky, but overall I would think the game would benefit a little bit more for being tougher. But obviously I think this is a game that they want to cater towards a wide variety of audiences, not just kind of hardcore puzzle fans. But overall, I think the difficulty scaled pretty decent. Now, one thing I think they do a really good job on is the optical illusion parts of it. Like there's times where it kind of messes with your head, and then you don't really realize something that you're supposed to do until, whether, I don't even think it really prompts you. You just kind of accidentally do it sometimes. And also too, there's a lot of hidden doors, a lot of hidden things that you can find that you may have missed the first time that you go back, or you kind of accidentally fall into, where they'll have like a pile of coins or whatever it might be. Quite honestly, I'm not entirely sure what the coins are for. It seems like you don't really need them outside of the fact of just getting high scores. But yeah, there's a lot of like little hidden things they like to do and throw. And I think also what I like a lot is that they kind of, for the most part, leave it up to your interpretation of how you want to beat this thing. There's some that are pretty stagnant that you have to, like, hey, this is pretty static, you have to do it this way. But then there's some where, okay, like there's multiple ways you could have done this, and I like that part about it. There is some hand holding, but there's also not a ton either, and overwhelmingly hand holding at the same time. Overall, I think this game is a super slept on game. If you haven't played it, play it. Like I said, the game looks beautiful. It's super easy to run. I'm pretty sure you can run it on a phone on emulation. I played this game entirely on my Steam Deck. It was a blast to play. Like I said, it's one of those games, if you just want kind of something not mindless, but something not super, requires a lot of reactions or reaction timing, this is a good game for you. Like I said, I love it. I wish they make a better sequel of it where you can include co-op, some co-op specific missions, because they did add the co-op in the Switch version, but the co-op is literally, you're just a pointer. You're basically somebody's finger, essentially. So it's not a real co-op. So it would have been cool to kind of have that separate co-op book maybe, or something like we've seen in games like Portal 2. I like to refer back to a lot, because that is also kind of similar in the same vein, where they created a whole separate list of maps and puzzles that you can do with your friend and kind of utilize the two together. So I would love it if they gave Toad a little bit more love, because even though this game maybe wasn't a massive commercial success like your other big Mario or Zelda games, this is a game that I think was pretty influential, and I think a lot of people look back on, for the ones who did play it, and really enjoyed it. And I think if it had better timing, it probably would have done better. And maybe, who knows, they're working on it in the mix while we have the Switch 2 out. There's no more cross-generational confusion. Maybe it could be time for a sequel to do something different. And like I said, maybe add that little co-op mode. But overall, if you've played the game, what do you think? Do you like it? Obviously, you're watching this video, you probably like it to some extent. So if you do, and you want to see more retrospective and review content just like this, or just general news talking about some of our classic franchises that we love, please feel free to like and subscribe to this video. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.